Today, we're going to dive into exactly where Sarada is going to get her Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The answer to Sarada's biggest hurdle doesn't lie in some miracle medical technique or divine intervention. It's actually been hidden right under Konoha's nose this whole time. After the time skip in 2 Blue Vortex, we've seen a version of Sarada who seems to have reached the absolute peak of her abilities. Her Mangekyo Sharingan, featuring that unique sun-like pattern, has awakened a power known as Ohirume. This ability, which we've seen in recent manga chapters, allows her to control gravitational singularities, essentially creating localized black holes or spheres that distort space itself. Visually, it looks absolutely stunning, and it puts her right up there with the strongest characters in the entire universe. However, let's be real for a moment and look at the cold, hard rules of the Naruto world. The Mangekyo Sharingan is known as the eyes that see the truth, but ironically, the more you use them, the faster they descend into darkness. Many fans who truly care about Sarada are clinging to a hope tied to her mother. They say, she's Sakura's daughter, she'll learn the Byakugo strength of 100 seal, and that constant regeneration will save her eyes. This is an incredibly popular theory, but unfortunately, it's fundamentally flawed and actually goes against the established canon. Let's break down why the medical path just won't work. First, we need to understand the true nature of Mangekyo Sharingan blindness. This isn't a physical injury like a cut or a broken bone. According to the databooks and explanations in the original manga, this is a metaphysical exhaustion linked to a unique Uchiha chakra that affects the brain and the optic nerves. It's described as the sealing of light. Medical ninjutsu, even at the highest level, heals tissues and restores cells, but it isn't capable of reversing this specific energetic process of dojutsu degradation. If it were really that simple, Tsunade would have healed Itachi a long time ago. Second, let's be honest about Sarada's own skill set. Throughout the entire anime and manga, it's been clearly shown that she isn't a medical-type ninja. Yes, she inherited Sakura's monstrous physical strength, which is based on precise chakra control at the moment of impact. But that control is focused on destruction, not on creation or delicate regeneration. Think about it for a second. The story has spent so much time showing us that Sarada is a warrior, not a healer. It would be a huge stretch to suddenly change her entire path now. The Byakugo seal, the pinnacle of medical art, requires more than just talent. It takes years of incredibly fine chakra accumulation at a single point and perfect control over it for medical purposes. Sarada doesn't have that kind of time, nor does she seem to have a natural predisposition for that specific art. Expecting her to suddenly master an S-rank technique that took her mother years to perfect right in the middle of a war would honestly feel like a bit of a cheap plot device. So, we're left with a pretty tough conclusion. Sarada is destined to go blind. Her own powers are killing her eyesight, and her mother's path is closed to her. The situation seems hopeless. She needs the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan EMS to keep fighting at the Otsutsuki level. But for the EMS, you need the eyes of a close relative or another Uchiha. Sasuke is currently sealed in a tree and he only has one eye left anyway, which is already an EMS. He can't be the donor. And this is exactly where the solution comes in. A solution that Kishimoto and Kodachi laid into the foundation of the story all the way back in Naruto Gaiden. Do you remember the Naruto Gaiden, the Seventh Hokage and the Scarlet Spring arc? That's the one where Sarada first awakened her Sharingan and met Sasuke. The main antagonist was Shin Uchiha, a man who wasn't born into the clan but was obsessed with Itachi. His body was a unique experiment created by Orochimaru. Shin had a phenomenal genetic trait. His body wouldn't reject foreign tissues. He was basically a perfect living puzzle, a universal donor and recipient. Orochimaru used this trait to cover Shin's body in Sharingans, and then created an entire army of clones based on him. These clones aren't just pale copies. They are genetically identical to the original, and most importantly, they inherited that modified DNA structure that integrated Uchiha genes. How did that arc end? The clones rebelled against the original, and then, thanks to Naruto and Sasuke's intervention, they were given a chance at a new life. Hundreds of little Sharingan users were sent to an orphanage in Konoha, and guess who became their guardian? Kabuto Yakushi. Here's the big question. Why leave an entire army of Mangekyo Sharingan users under the care of a genius medical geneticist if you aren't planning to use them later in the story? Now, in 2 Blue Vortex, those clones have grown up. They are in Konoha, they are loyal to the village, and they possess fully awakened Mangekyo Sharingans. These aren't just kids in an orphanage. From the perspective of the harsh logic of the shinobi world, they are a strategic dojutsu reserve, kept in storage until they are needed. Kabuto, as Orochimaru's former assistant and a master of the Edo Tensei, perfectly understands the value of this genetic gift. Their presence in the story can't be a coincidence. If we look at the structure of the Boruto narrative through the lens of writing logic, we see a recurring pattern: long-term setups that activate dozens of chapters later. There are plenty of examples: karma, the mystery of the Jugen, Ada's true nature, and the revelation of Amado. Each of these elements was introduced early on without an immediate explanation, only to become a key driver of the plot later. Shin's clones fit this exact model. They didn't appear as a completed arc, but as an open question. Take note, the authors could have easily had the clones destroyed after the conflict. That would have made sense if they just wanted to clean up the plot, but instead they kept them alive. Not only that, they didn't isolate them, hide them away, or send them out of the country. They integrated them into Konoha. That is a deliberate choice. In a shinobi world where every unique genetic phenomenon has strategic value, having an entire group of Mangekyo users is no small detail. Plus, having Kabuto as their guardian is a major clue. He's not a random character. He is the best medical ninja of his generation after Tsunade. He's someone who has gone from being a manipulator to finding redemption. He understands the cost of genetic experiments better than anyone. If a complex eye transplant is needed in the future that accounts for the specifics of Uchiha chakra, Kabuto is the perfect person to perform that surgery. This isn't an accident, it's dramatic architecture. I also want to take a quick moment to remind you that my goal is to hit 10K subscribers on the channel. My birthday is coming up in 3 months, and hitting that milestone would be the absolute best gift you could give me. Thank you all so much for the support now. Let's get back to the discussion. To fully grasp the scale of this setup, we have to remember the nature of Orochimaru's experiment itself. Shin didn't just carry a bunch of Sharingans. His body was designed as a perfect platform for integrating foreign biology. This makes him fundamentally different from Danzo, who forcibly implanted eyes and needed Hashirama cells just to stay stable. Shin didn't need any crutches. His body was naturally adapted for symbiosis. This means his clones inherited not just the eyes, but the compatibility mechanism itself. This is a vital detail because Uchiha eye transplants have always come with the risk of rejection and chakra instability. Even Sasuke had a recovery period after his transplant, but Shin's clones are genetically optimized carriers. Their Mangekyo isn't a stolen power, it's a dojutsu grown organically within a modified body structure. In terms of the biotechnology of the Naruto world, this is perfect donor material. Now let's look at this from another side, the ideological one. Orochimaru always aimed to overcome the limitations of nature. His experiments are a challenge to fate. The irony here is that his legacy might actually become the tool that saves the Uchiha clan. It's dramatically beautiful. Something that started as a mad experiment becomes the foundation for preserving a legacy. Also, don't forget that Shin's clones possess an awakened Mangekyo without the classic trauma of losing a loved one. That's an anomaly in itself. Their power is the result of an artificial process. This creates a unique precedent. Their eyes don't carry personal tragedy. They aren't directly linked to the curse of hatred. And that's exactly why using them could symbolize a break from the past Uchiha cycle for someone like Sarada. If Sarada gets her EMS through a clone's eyes, it won't just be a repeat of Madara or Sasuke's history. It will be a new form of eyes born not of revenge, but of synthetic evolution. It's a transition to a new era of shinobi, where the lines between the natural and the artificial are blurred. This is where the theory goes from just being logical to being conceptually inevitable. Because Boruto is a story about transhumanism, scientific tools, karma, and body modifications. In this world, the old rules aren't erased, but they are adapted. Getting the EMS through Shin's clones fits the philosophy of the new era perfectly. It's not just a convenient plot twist. It's the evolution of the very idea of Uchiha power. This is a Chekhov's gun that has been hanging on the wall for a very long time, and it's pointed straight at Sarada's problem. It's very symbolic that she awakened her Sharingan in the very same arc where they were first shown. Now, let's connect the problem and the solution. Shin's clones fit the criteria for an Uchiha eye transplant transplant perfectly, creating a unique loophole in the rules. First, there's biological compatibility. As mentioned, the bodies of Shin and his clones were created by Orochimaru to be a universal adapter for any tissue. Their eyes are guaranteed to take hold in any host, especially one who already has Uchiha DNA. Second, there's the pseudo-kinship. Shin's clones aren't Uchiha by birth. In the world of Naruto, where chakra and DNA have a mystical connection, this is enough to trick the system. Their Sharingans are real and biologically grown, not artificial implants. Merging Sarada's eyes with those of a Shin clone would create the necessary chakra resonance. It's an elegant solution, using an artificial creation to save the last true heir of the clan, thereby closing the circle of tragedies and experiments. Furthermore, there is some interesting visual symbolism. Sarada's Mangekyo pattern resembles a sun or an 8-pointed star. Shin's Mangekyo pattern is a 3-pointed symbol that also references solar signs or a stylized eye. In Japanese mythology, the sun goddess Amaterasu is closely linked to mirrors and sight. Combining these two solar patterns into one Eternal Mangekyo feels incredibly logical from a visual design standpoint and fits the mythological subtext that Kishimoto loves so much. This solution is much cleaner and more logical than any other alternative. So, how will this happen in Blue Vortex? Based on my analysis of the current situation and the story structure, I can make a pretty accurate prediction. We are on the verge of a great war. Konoha is being attacked by the Shinju sentient incarnations of the Ten Tails. Among them is Hidari, a being created from Sasuke Uchiha. A battle between Sarada and Hidari is inevitable. It will be a fight with massive emotional weight, a daughter against a twisted image of her father. In this battle, Sarada will be forced to give it her all. Hidari has the power of the Ten Tails and Sasuke's techniques. To stand against a monster like that, Sarada will have to use Ohirume far beyond her physical limits. She will warp gravity over and over to save her friends and the village until, at a critical moment in the fight, her vision fails. Imagine that moment, in the heat of battle, when everything depends on her, the world before her eyes fades into a bloody mist and then into total darkness. That will be her moment of despair. And that's exactly where Kabuto and Shin's clones will step onto the stage. It's possible Kabuto himself will arrive at the battlefield or the hospital, sensing what's happening. He is the only one with the knowledge and resources for an immediate solution. The transplant of a Shin clone's eyes will be a turning point not just for Sarada, but for the clones themselves. From being faceless tools of war, they will become the saviors of the Uchiha legacy. This gives their existence a deep sense of purpose. One of them will sacrifice his sight so that Sarada can see forever. After receiving the EMS, Sarada's power will stabilize. Ohirume will no longer degrade her vision, and she will gain access to the perfect Susanoo, allowing her to fight the Shinju on equal footing without fearing the consequences. This will be the upgrade she needs for the final stage of Uchiha power, but it will be earned through pain, sacrifice, and the acceptance of her clan's dark history. To wrap up our analysis, we can say with certainty, Sarada Uchiha's current situation is a ticking time bomb. Believing in her invulnerability or a miracle cure from Sakura is just wishful thinking. The Naruto canon is harsh but logical. You always have to pay for the power of the Mangekyo with your sight. However, the Boruto writing team has brilliantly prepared the ground for this solution in advance. The clones of Shin Uchiha aren't a forgotten plot hole. They are a carefully prepared resource waiting for their moment in the Konoha orphanage. Their unique physiology and Mangekyo eyes make them the only logical, canon-compliant, and emotionally resonant way to grant Sarada the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. This path won't just save her from blindness, it will beautifully complete the clones' arc, turning them from weapons into heroes. We are on the threshold of one of the most dramatic and important power-ups in the history of the new generation, and now you know exactly where it's coming from. What do you think? Will Sarada use the clones' eyes knowing where they came from? Will it be a moral dilemma for her, or will she accept it as a necessity to protect the village? And what kind of design do you think her Eternal Mangekyo will take after the merger? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. I always love discussing these with you. See you in the next video.